Zambians woke up to a security alert from the United States, warning that the new Cybersecurity Act gives the Zambian government the power to monitor all communications. The Zambian government, well, they've denied it, saying it's simply to stop cyber fraud and to protect the public. But Zambians aren't so sure. Is the US right? Is Zambia now a surveillance state? Or are we just overreacting to a misunderstood law? Today we break it all down and tell you what's actually in the Cybersecurity Act, what protects you and what threatens your digital freedom. So as per usual, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video to anyone that's interested.
I am an African.
Before we start throwing around words like interception, digital surveillance, let's lay some groundwork because context matters. So, did this Cybersecurity Act just pop out of thin air? Well, not at all. Zambia has actually had 4 major acts leading up to this moment, and a whole separate law on data protection, which we'll touch on in a second. Let's rewind to the first act, all the way in 1994, during the presidency of Frederick Chiluba. Now, this was a pre-Facebook, pre-Google, heck, most homes didn't even have a dial-up. So it's no surprise that back then, nobody was throwing around the word cyber. Instead, we got the Radio Communications Act. What did it cover? Mainly the basics: radios, antennas, frequency control. Stuff like making sure your neighbor's ham radio didn't interfere with the national broadcasting. Then came 2009 under President Rupiah Banda, and that's when things started to get a little bit more digital. Enter the Information and Communication Technologies Act, or ICT Act for short. This act created ZICTA, Zambia's Information and Communication Technology Authority. I don't know if you remember ZICTA. Now everybody's talking about cybersecurity. I don't know if you...
Yeah, I know. ZICTA is still around. It's like it used to be a cool kid, and now everyone's just like, oh yeah, cyber.
Yeah, they had a really cool office
cool.
in Lusaka, and now all of a sudden it's cyber.
Ironically, they took over the American embassy moved, and then they got the building.
Yeah,
so
precisely.
Now the American embassy is talking about cyber.
Now cyber, everything is cyber. Think of so ZICTA was basically a referee for internet service providers and mobile networks. They regulate telecoms, handle licensing, and set the rules for companies like MTN, Airtel, and Zamtel. But, and this is the key, even this act didn't say a word about cybersecurity or digital privacy. But in 2021, things got a little jiggy. I don't know if people say jiggy anymore. I think I'm showing my age a little bit now. You know,
you're millennial, early Gen
Not many
Z
people.
age.
La. Anyways, in 2021 was a turning point for Zambia, right? That's when Zambia introduced the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Act. It was the first real attempt to deal with digital threats like hacking, digital fraud, online abuse. So far, so good, right? But here's where it gets interesting. The law also created something called the Central Monitoring and Coordination Center, CMCC for short. Now, this isn't your neighborhood watchdog. This thing was given broad powers to intercept communications. Yes, that means your calls, your texts, even your location, if they declared it an emergency. That's the word of the day. You know, I want to do something like Sesame Street or something. Emergency. That's the word of the day. So, and
you
the
really
wild
are
part,
showing your age.
this
Street now as well. Yeah.
Sesame Street, right? Yeah, maybe what Dora the Explorer? What do kids watch these days? I was about to say Animal Farm.
Baby
I was
Shark
about to
or
say
whatever.
Animal Farm. Baby Shark. Teletubbies. Yeah, so we'll keep them in mind.
Never mind.
Yeah, so emergency. And the wild part is, this interception could be done orally. No paper trail, no notification. Meaning that if the law enforcement want to investigate you, they would go to a judge or any other authority and literally just ask orally, and they'll start investigating you. No paper trail, no notification, no evidence. And telecom providers, they're legally compelled to comply. Naturally, this didn't sit well with a lot of people, including the then opposition leader and now president Hakainde Hichilema. Now, stick a pin in that. You heard it first. The first law I'll repeal. Also, in 2021, Zambia passed the Data Protection Act, a win for digital rights. It required consent before your data could be collected, stored, or shared. A good move and also a step into international data standards. And then, as we all know, Hakainde Hichilema, or HH as locally known, won the largest election victory in Zambian presidential history. Massive win, landslide. The people had spoken.
Yeah,
To be fair, oh really?
1996, the largest one
Was-
since 1996.
Since 1996. Was 1996 larger than this, do you think?
Yeah, it was like 70 something.
Oh, that's crazy. To be fair, the president did deliver on some of his many promises. But then came April 8th, 2025. Out of the blue and largely unnoticed to the public, HH signed the new Cybersecurity Law Act into law. And oddly enough, this was made public thanks to the US of a country known for surveilling its citizens, Edward Snowden much. So here's the twist. To everyone's surprise, this new act didn't repeal the 2021 version. In fact, it kept most of it. And in some areas, it even expanded the powers. According to civil society groups like CPESA and the Bloggers of Zambia, the act failed to include oversight, ignored recommendations, and gave even more unchecked power to the CMCC.
There's an additional two other bodies that have been created by this act, or rather redefined by this act. There's the Zambia Cyber Incident Response Team, ZCIRT, and the Zambia Cyber Security Agency. The Zambia Cyber Incident Response Team has a role of technical response in detecting, analyzing, and mitigating cyber incidences. The functions include investigating security breaches and cyber attacks, providing support and guidance to affected institutions, coordinating regional and international cyber threat responses, which often work in collaboration with the Cybersecurity Authority or agency. Now, here comes Zambia's Cyber Security Agency, whose role is basically an overarching regulatory enforcement body created by the Act. This basically implements the provisions of the Act. It gives the licenses, monitors, penalizes ICT services and providers, and it also drives the national policy on cybersecurity. There's a separate Cybercrimes Act which is held under the Zambian Home Office.
The new act didn't repeal the 2021 version. In fact, it kept most of it. And in some areas, even expanded the powers, according to civil society groups like CPESA and the Bloggers of Zambia. The act failed to include oversight, ignored recommendations, and gave even more unchecked power to the CMCC. Let me break it down for you. If law enforcement considers you a threat or part of an emergency, they can now legally monitor you without telling you. So if you text your friend, bro, that concert last night was the bomb, someone in a dark room might decide that it sounds a little bit too explosive. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but not by much. This act gives more power to a body, the CMCC and the ones that Zengi had mentioned, that only answers to the office of the president. That's not just a privacy concern, that's a democratic oversight issue. And remember that Data Protection Act I mentioned? The one that said consent is required to use your personal data? Yeah, this act allows surveillance without your consent, no strict time limits on how your data can be stored, no requirement to tell you if it happened as well. Also, it has much stiffer punishments. That's not just a legal contradiction, that's a civil liberties problem. And another big concern is recording private conversations without consent. Now that sounds good, right? No random spying. Now here's the real plot twist. You, the citizen, can't record someone else, even if you're trying to expose corruption, abuse, or a crime, unless you have consent. So journalists, whistleblowers, activists, you're on thin ice. There's no exception in the Act for public interest reporting. So let's imagine you're secretly recording an official demanding a bribe. You publish the clip, boom. You could be prosecuted for unauthorized recording. Meanwhile, the CMCC can record your, and those other institutions and had mentioned, can record your phone call, can record your stuff, and never tell you. Justice for thee, but not for me.
This is not the first time we're having this law. What has happened this year is not the beginning of the Cyber Security or Cyber Crimes Act. Of course, it's something that I think was strengthened in 2021 when we saw the Cyber Crimes and Cyber Security Act being signed into law by President Edgar Lungu that time. Of course, there was a lot of concern even that time, just before the bills were signed into law. We spoke out as civil society representatives, and as for instance, myself as a press freedom advocate, we did raise a number of issues and concerns where we advised that that particular bill was actually being rushed because we needed a lot of time to discuss and ensure that